How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video we're going to focus on this tropical disturbance that's pretty much hugging the Gulf Coast at this time, and determine if this will develop into Tropical Storm Danielle, and determine the flood impacts this should bring all along the Gulf Coast. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video as well. So now let's take a look at the water vapor imagery right now, right around the Gulf of Mexico, and of course we do see a lot of convection occurring right along the Gulf Coast with an area of low pressure that's located just to the south of Mississippi at this time. However, we do see that the convection is very broad and very scattered. We don't really have one area where all that thunderstorm activity and convection is propagating towards, as we do see that the area is very spread out, which isn't something we want. That isn't really good if this disturbance wants to develop into a tropical cyclone, because we need all that energy to stay focused in on one area and converge towards one small center of circulation. And of course we aren't seeing that. We're seeing just a very broad low at this time with a broad area of thunderstorm activity. We do see a little bit more convection in this area, but it isn't really enough to really enhance wind speed along the surface level for this to have right now a good chance of developing into a tropical storm. And in terms of the wind shear, we do have a little bit of wind shear just to the south of it. We do have a small upper level low just to the south of it. However, the wind shear isn't necessarily strong to the point where it would inhibit this storm. It's more just the fact that the energy is so spread out over a large area that this is going to have a difficult time to really have enough energy to converge towards one small center of circulation. And plus, the land interaction is another issue, because we do see this area of thunderstorm activity move towards land, which is limiting the amount of energy it could absorb from the ocean. So as a result, this right now has a low chance of developing, and it likely will stay like that at least within the near future as of right now, based on what the computer models are saying and based on how it's looking right now, because even north of this we do have a little bit of dry air as well. Now taking a look at the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook provided for the National Hurricane Center, we still have a low chance of this developing into Tropical Storm Danielle as of right now, at least, where we have a 10% chance within the next 48 hours, but it increases a little bit to 20% within the next 5 days. However, while it does increase within the next 5 days compared to yesterday, the chance slightly decreased by 10%, as it seems like the computer models are less lenient, that a little less lenient that well-defined low pressure system will develop along the Gulf Coast. So as a result, the National Hurricane Center dropped down its probability accordingly based on what the computer models are forecasting at this time. But it still easily could change, especially when we're talking about something within right around the 5-day mark or beyond the 5-day mark, which the National Hurricane Center still has yet to approach at this time, since of course the National Hurricane Center does not make probability forecasts beyond the 5-day mark. So we could see that chance increase or decrease within the next couple of days. So taking a look at the current wind shear, like I said, the wind shear for the most part is fairly light. We do have that small upper level low that's located just to the south of this convection, but that's expected to weaken. So for a good amount of time, this should be under fairly light wind shear, but the amount of stable air and the land interaction is expected to inhibit this convection enough to where it has a low chance of developing within the near future. But we still can't rule out the chance could increase, especially since we have seen tropical cyclones, not even in the National Hurricane Center probability forecasts, develop out of nowhere. So so we easily could still see this develop into a tropical storm. The chance is low, but the chance certainly does exist, and we could see it increase over the next several days. Now take a look at what the GFS model is saying when it comes to relative humidity. So this is how it's looking like right now. Of course, one of the big inhibiting factors is the amount of stable air just to the north of it. Because of this, we can't really see it's going to be very difficult for this low pressure system that isn't really identified by the GFS model, since it's so weak. It's going to be very difficult for this low pressure system to absorb air around it without absorbing that stable air that would inhibit tropical cyclone development, because of course a lot of air, there needs to be a strong upward motion right around center circulation for a tropical cyclone to develop, and with this much sinking and stable air just to the north of it, it's going to be very difficult for it to fend it off. But this moisture will continue to stay along the Gulf Coast, and we will see another trough move through the United States, the same one that's expected to bring severe weather in the Northeast, bring a little bit more moisture and potentially a little bit more instability along the Gulf Coast. However, we do see that a lot of the moisture is more inland, which should inhibit it from absorbing a lot of energy, and we see another upper level low sort of bring a little bit more dry air on the eastern side of this moisture. So all around, we could see this struggle a little bit thanks to the stability, and while the upper level winds are weak right now, it could increase as a result of this upper level low that's expected to continue to move northwestward into the Gulf of Mexico, where we do see the wind shear increase as this upper level low continues to move closer and closer to the Gulf of Mexico. I don't think it's going to be the main inhibiting factor. Like I said, I think the land interaction, how broad the aerial moisture is, and the fact that there's a little bit too much stable air are the more primary factors of why this wouldn't develop. But we can't rule out that the fact that a decent amount of wind shear will enter the Gulf of Mexico, which will lower its possibility, but we still need to wait and see if it holds up, because the computer models could be wrong at times. But taking a look at what the GFS model is forecasting within the next 5 days, we do see that we're going to continue to see moisture just stay around the Gulf of Mexico. But the key difference today is that we don't see a lot of moisture in the at least open Gulf of Mexico, and that's big because of course a tropical cyclone needs to be over open water. We see a little bit too much moisture further inland, which of course we can't see a tropical storm or depression develop if all the convection is occurring inland. And you see that for the future, it seems like the GFS model wants to bring most of that moisture further inland. And taking a look at what the European model is forecasting within the same time period, the moisture is a little bit more off the coast, so maybe the European model does have a slightly better chance of developing into Tropical Storm Danielle in the open Gulf of Mexico. But still, the European model isn't really developing any sort of well-defined low pressure system. So as a result, the National Hurricane Center has lowered its forecast. But you're probably wondering how beyond the 5-day mark. Well, there aren't really major signs beyond the 5-day mark either, because if we were to take a look, we do see still the moisture linger around the Gulf of Mexico, so there's still that possibility a tropical storm could form, but still highly uncertain at this point. But I'll keep you guys updated beyond the 5-day mark if we do see a little bit more of a trend. The GFS model saying the same thing, just not enough moisture in the Gulf of Mexico for really much of anything to develop even beyond the 5-day mark. So right now, the chance of this Tropical Storm Danielle developing is fairly weak at this time, but we still need to wait and see if the computer models hold up, because of course we could see it change over the next several days. But I'll keep you guys updated regarding any sort of changes with the computer models. Like I said, we need to see a little bit more convection in the Gulf of Mexico, and as well as a little bit less stable air in the near future to really see if this does have a chance of developing. And we need to see this area of moisture a little bit less broad and a little bit more independent, which we still have yet to see over the next several days. So I'll keep you guys updated, but the chance is looking a little bit light at this time. So light that the GFS model in fact isn't developing a low pressure system anymore, or at least a well-defined low pressure system anymore just off of Louisiana. Because if you check yesterday's video, of course we saw the GFS model want to develop a low pressure system just off the Louisiana coast, but now the GFS model within the next at least 5 days isn't developing much of anything, which is a stark contrast, which shows the reason why the National Hurricane Center wanted to lower the probability of Tropical Storm Danielle developing in the Gulf of Mexico. And same goes for the ECENS model, where we do see the where we do see a little bit less tracks of a low pressure system. We still do see a low pressure system develop, but the spaghetti models are a lot less numerous, so the confidence has lowered that we will see a well-defined low pressure system that could develop into Tropical Storm Danielle, but it's still subject to change. Really all depends on how much convection there is in the open Gulf of Mexico, but I'll keep you guys updated regarding that. But whether this develops into Tropical Storm Danielle or not, what you should still be certain about is that you will experience heavy rain along the Gulf Coast, where just south of New Orleans you could experience close to, if not over, 8 inches of rain, and potentially in the extreme southeastern portion of Louisiana you could receive over 10 inches of rain, which it will easily cause flooding. Flash flooding should be a major concern. And by the way, this is within the next 5 days. Taking a look at the scale, you see that if you're in the purples, you should expect anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain. If you're in the red, you should expect more like 3 to 5, and if you're in the orange, you should expect more than 5 inches of rain, which is very significant. And you see this impacting a lot of the bigger cities along the Gulf of Mexico, such as Mobile, Gulfport, Mississippi, New Orleans, Louisiana, as well as Panama City is getting involved a little bit, and a large portion of the panhandle of Florida. And we see that rain move a little bit northward as well to the Carolinas. So there's definitely something to keep in mind in regards to flooding along the Gulf of Mexico coast and the Carolinas. So make sure to pay close attention to the high risk of flooding over the next several days. Now, take a look at my forecast when it comes to Tropical Storm Danielle, potential Tropical Storm Danielle. At this time, the chance is a little bit lower, but you should still expect a very heavy rain threat and a high risk of flash flooding along the Gulf Coast, especially flooding is one of the leading causes of weather-related deaths in the United States, so you want to take necessary precaution. If you see water on the roadway, turn around, don't drown, because typically the water is a lot deeper than what you'd expect and it could save your life. So make sure to stay safe from this flooding. And yeah guys, I hope you guys just stay prepared. But anyways guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content, and I hope you guys all have a great day.